Donald Trump lost the presidency back in November of 2020 to Joe Biden. Donald Trump lost the popular vote in 2016. Donald Trump was impeached in January of 2020. Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, he lost the House, and he lost the Senate. The message is clear, he lost. But Trump bitterly fought this by telling lies and sowing doubt in our democracy and our fair election. He made a mockery of it. He ignored the interests of the country for 4 years while focusing on his own agenda, which had no room for anybody or anything other than himself primarily. He locked himself away for some time after losing, scheming and looking for any sort of claim that could somehow overturn the election in his favor. His team filed lawsuit after lawsuit, over 50 of them leading to absolutely nothing. Tossed. January 20th was coming, and as the days passed, Donald Trump grew more desperate. Before the 20th, there was another date that Trump had his eyes on. In fact, most everybody did. January 5th, the date of the Georgia Senate race. 2 Republicans, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, tried to hold on to their seats and faced 2 Democratic candidates, Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. The stakes for the Georgia race were incredibly high. There were 48 seats in the Senate, held by Democrats, and 50 by Republicans. If Loeffler and Perdue took a hold, they would have Senate control. But if Ossoff and Warnock won, the Senate would be flipped blue. 50-50 power, but with Vice President Kamala's breaking tie votes. And they did it. They won. They were going to be the first Democrats elected to the Senate from that state in 20 years. Not only that, but they made history in being the first Black and Jewish senators to represent Georgia. It was a nail-biter with an excellent outcome. With that taken care of, Trump fumed and grew more destructive. He had his eyes set on his one last hope that somehow, some way, Vice President Pence could take the election win from Biden and hand it to Trump by throwing out fraudulent votes. Trump had repeatedly talked about Mike coming through for him, urging him to do the right thing, to not be weak, and so on. Mike Pence cannot do anything. Mike Pence explained this to Trump days ago, but Trump still parrots the statements. He still insists. At this point, Trump is an incredibly desperate and malicious man. He's been trying anything and saying anything that could prove fraud and give him the election. Not only give him the election, but to show that he won in a landslide. It's what he insists. The voter fraud claims were outrageous. The voting machines were manipulated to delete millions of votes for Trump, to flip votes for Biden, that it has links to Venezuela. Trump believes he rightfully won the election by a lot. He convinced himself of this, and for months sowed extremism, doubt, and fear into the minds of his loyalist supporters. I watched the Georgia Senate race take its course through the morning, announcing Warnock as the winner and Ossoff not far behind. I tuned in for Trump's speech on January 6th, but the day Pence was supposed to pull through for Trump. As we know, the day that Trump was going to be rightfully named the winner in his mind. I thought it was rather funny. It was over. There was nothing for them to do. He could complain all he wanted, and he could give outlandish speeches, and we could laugh knowing there was only 14 or so more days of this. But then the speech started to veer, and I grew a little worried. We've seen what the extremists who follow Trump and his ideology do. I can't stop thinking about Charlottesville. Yes, I was rather worried. Trump conveyed the message that there was going to be a fight. There had to be. They weren't going down without one. Shortly after, I and the rest of America saw the rest of the words and ideas put into the minds of supporters who were willing to take side with extremism and violence. My gut sank, and it wasn't a funny situation. It was horrifying. But this was horrendous. A woman was shot dead in the Capitol as lawmakers hid, fearful for their own lives. They had just been in the simplest of procedures. The Electoral College vote count some Republicans objected to. I don't know why, other than obviously it being a political stunt. But after these events have unfolded, they take it back. Many do. They appear to be reconsidering their standing, and most everybody saw the culprit. Trump did this. A sitting president did this. Even worse was the fact that not only did he incite sedition, he was still in favor of the events unfolding. Twitter had to finally step in and silence him for 12 hours, and hinted at potentially banning him. They need to. And really, he ought to not be allowed back at the White House. The D.C. Attorney General and many others, even cabinet members, have been holding preliminary talks about invoking the 25th Amendment and letting Pence take the reins, because Trump needs to go. This crossed the line. This is horrendous, absolutely. This entire mess was just so shocking, and it left the majority disgusted and exhausted. Even Lindsey Graham was stating that enough is enough. It's over. The others are saying it's over. We can't have this. Trump needs to go. And even after the chaos of what had happened at the Capitol, the legislators and everybody still came back, and they continued their work. They keep working. They are setting an example. They will finish the certification process, and Joe Biden will be the president. They need to set a good example. Trump needs to go. Because this day, January 6th, is going to be remembered. That's for sure.